Old friends and business allies pressed Adebayo to reconsider. "A man of your stature needs a queen, not a beggar," said Chief Okonkwo, a shipping magnate whose daughter had once eyed Adebayo's ring. "She'll drag you down." Adebayo sipped his drink, his face a mask. "My empire, my choice," he said, ending the conversation. But the warnings gnawed at him. "Hello, bestie. Please stay with me as I unfold this interesting romantic story. If you enjoy the story, please support us by subscribing to this channel and hit the notification button for more. Thank you. Grab your popcorn, sit back, relax, and enjoy this story." Adebayo Ogunlayi was a titan in a city of giants. At 42, his name reverberated through Lagos like a thunderclap, synonymous with power, wealth, and an unrelenting will. Born in the crowded, sun-baked streets of Surulere, head risen from nothing, the son of a mechanic and a petty trader who died too young. Orphaned at 15, Adebayo learned early that trust was a trap and survival demanded ruthlessness. By his 20s, Head turned a small oil deal into a fortune, outsmarting men twice his age. Now, his empire spanned the black gold of the Niger Delta, glittering estates in Banana Island, and a tech conglomerate that rivaled Silicon Valley's finest. His company, Ogunlayi Enterprises, was a machine, its gears oiled by his sharp mind and colder heart. His penthouse in Victoria Island was a fortress of glass and steel, perched above Lagos' chaotic sprawl. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Atlantic's restless waves, but Adebayo rarely noticed the view. His days were a blur of boardrooms, private jets, and deals that shifted Nigeria's economy. At night, he stood alone, a glass of cognac in hand, watching the city's lights flicker like the ambitions of those below. Lagos called him Oga at the top, but to his rivals, he was the Iron King, unyielding, untouchable, and alone. The elite women of Lagos saw him as the ultimate prize. At galas in eco-hotels' opulent halls, daughters of ministers, heiresses draped in Gucci, and Nollywood starlets with practiced smiles circled him like hawks. Temi Aluko, an oil heiress with a Harvard degree and a laugh like crystal, was the boldest. "Adebayo, when will you settle?" Shed purr, her hand grazing his arm. Head fix her with a stare, his dark eyes slicing through her charm. "When I find someone who doesn't want my bank account," Head reply, voice sharp as a machete. He saw their motives, marriages to merge empires, to bask in his spotlight. Trust, Head learned in Surulere's alleys, was a luxury for fools. His inner circle, a select few who'd earned his grudging respect, urged him to choose. "A man like you needs a queen," said Chike, his oldest friend and CFO, over cigars at a Lekki rooftop lounge. "Someone to match your status." Adebayo scoffed, exhaling smoke into the humid night. "Status is a mask. I don't trust what glitters." His past had taught him that lesson: betrayals by partners, friends who'd sold him out for a fraction of his worth. Even his wealth, vast as it was, felt like a cage. He craved something real, though Head never admit it, not even to himself. Lagos buzzed with rumors about the billionaire who rejected its finest women. Tabloids speculated. Was he hiding a secret? Was he incapable of love? At a charity auction, as bids for a Picasso soared, a senator's daughter whispered to her friend, "He's a machine, not a man." Adebayo overheard, his lips curling into a rare, bitter smile. Let them talk. Head built an empire by ignoring noise. Yet, as he drove through Lagos' neon-lit streets that night, his Rolls-Royce cutting through the chaos, a quiet ache stirred within him, an emptiness no deal could fill. The Lagos rain fell in relentless sheets, turning Oshodi's streets into a mosaic of mud and neon reflections. The market pulsed with life despite the downpour, hawkers shouting over the hiss of rain, motorbikes weaving through crowds, and the air thick with the mingled scents of grilled suya, diesel, and wet earth. Under a tattered blue umbrella, patched with duct tape and propped against a rusted pole, sat Amara, a 22-year-old orphan who'd made this corner her own. Her small fire crackled, roasting cobs of maize that sizzled and popped, their golden kernels a beacon in the gray dusk. Her clothes, a faded Ankara wrapper and a worn t-shirt, clung to her slight frame, but her eyes, wide and fierce, burned with a defiance that no storm could dim. Amara had grown up in a Jagunal's slums, a place where dreams were as scarce as clean water. Orphaned at 10 when a fire claimed her parents, she'd learned to survive on wit and hustle, dodging leering men and hunger's gnawing bite. She'd sold everything from pure water to second-hand shoes before settling on roasted corn. Her small stall a hard-won kingdom. The market women called her Iron Girl for her stubborn refusal to beg or break. She'd smile at their teasing, her laugh sharp and bright, but alone at night, she'd whisper her dreams to the stars. A school for children like her, a life beyond the roadside. That evening, as the rain battered her umbrella, a sleek Rolls-Royce Phantom glided through the traffic, its black sheen alien amidst Ashidi's chaos. Adebayo Ogunlai sat inside, his phone pressed to his ear, closing a deal worth millions. The car slowed near Amara's stall, the driver cursing the gridlock. Her fire caught Adebayo's eye, a flicker of warmth in the gloom. Then he saw her, smudged with soot, her hands deftly turning corn over the flames. Their gazes locked through the tinted window. Most would have looked away, cowed by the billionaire's stare, but Amara held his eyes, unflinching. She raised a cob, steam rising from its kernels. "Fresh, sir. You look like you need something real," she called, her voice cutting through the rain like a blade. Adebayo paused, his call forgotten. Her audacity intrigued him, a spark in a world of predictable moves. He stepped out, rain soaking his tailored Brioni suit, and approached her stall. The market stilled for a moment, eyes turning to the man who didn't belong. "How much for all of it?" he asked, gesturing to her stock. Amara tilted her head, sizing him up. 5,000 naira, she said, doubling her price on instinct. He smirked, handing her a crisp 10,000 naira note. "Keep the change." She pocketed it without a smile, tossing him a cob. "Eat it hot, Oga. Cold corn's no good." He took a bite, the sweet, charred flavor startling him. As he drove away, her face lingered in his mind, a puzzle he couldn't solve. He didn't know why, but he'd be back tomorrow. The Ashidi market was a living beast, its heartbeat a cacophony of haggling traders, blaring horns, and the rhythmic clatter of rain on zinc roofs. By dusk, the air hummed with the scent of roasted maize and akara frying in palm oil, a smoky perfume that clung to Amara's small corner. Her stall, a rickety table under a patched umbrella, was her fortress, where she ruled with a quick wit and a quicker smile. Each day, she roasted corn with a precision born of years surviving a Jagunal's unforgiving slums. At 22, Amara had seen more hardship than most. Orphaned at 10 when a kerosene lamp sparked a fire that devoured her family's shack, she'd learned to navigate a world that offered no mercy. She'd hawked pure water at 12, sold Okrika clothes at 15, and now her corn stall was her pride, each cob a small victory against hunger's shadow. Adebayo Ogunlai's Rolls-Royce became a strange fixture in Ashidi, its polished frame drawing stares from traders and touts. For a week, he returned daily, his driver, Musa, masking his confusion with a tight-lipped nod. Adebayo, the billionaire who dined with presidents, sat on a plastic stool by Amara's fire, rain dripping from his tailored coat. She called him Oga Big Man, her tone teasing but never cruel, and he found himself lingering longer each time. Amara didn't fawn over his wealth or shrink from his stern gaze. Instead, she shared her corn, her stories, and her laughter, each word chipping away at the wall's head built around his heart. "Why you keep coming back, Oga? My corn's not that special," she'd say, smirking as she fanned the flames. He'd only grunt, unable to admit her presence was a balm to his jaded soul. One humid evening, as the market quieted and the rain softened to a drizzle, Adebayo arrived alone, his driver dismissed. Amara raised an eyebrow, handing him a cob without a word. They sat in companionable silence, the fire crackling between them. "Tell me something true," he said suddenly, his voice low, almost vulnerable. Amara paused, her eyes tracing the scars on her hands, marks of a life hard lived. "I want to build a school," she said, For kids like me who got nothing but dreams. I want them to read, to know they're more than the street. Her voice was steady, her gaze distant, as if seeing a future beyond the smoke. Adebayo listened, his usual cynicism quieted. He saw her then, not just the iron girl of Oshodi, but a woman whose resilience mirrored his own, forged in a different fire. He shared a piece of himself in return, a rare crack in his armor. I lost my father at 15, he said, staring into the flames. Fought for every kobo in Surulere. Nobody gave me anything. Amara nodded, her eyes soft but unflinching. We're not so different, Oga, just took different roads. That night, as he drove back to his glass tower, her words echoed. For the first time in years, Adebayo felt seen, not as the Iron King, but as a man searching for something he couldn't name. Amara, wiping soot from her face, watched his car vanish, a quiet hope stirring in her chest. Neither knew it, but a spark had ignited, one that would burn brighter than Lagos' neon skyline. Lagos was a city of contrasts, where glass towers cast shadows over sprawling slums, and wealth danced a delicate waltz with want. In the gilded halls of Eco Hotel, where chandeliers glittered and champagne flowed like the Niger River, the elite gathered to celebrate the launch of a new luxury mall owned by Adebayo Ogunlai's conglomerate. The air buzzed with the clink of glasses, the rustle of designer agbadas, and the whispered ambitions of Nigeria's power players. Adebayo, impeccable in a tailored black tuxedo, moved through the crowd like a panther, his presence commanding silence and stares. But the whispers followed him, sharper than ever. For weeks, Lagos high society had noticed his absences from their glittering events, his Rolls-Royce spotted not at Ikoyi's polo clubs but in the chaotic heart of Oshodi. The rumors had crystallized into a single, scandalous truth. Adebayo, the Iron King, was smitten with a roadside corn seller. Temi Aluko, the oil heiress whose charm had failed to snare him, led the charge. At the gala, she cornered him near a marble fountain, her crimson gown catching the light, her smile a calculated blade. Adebayo, what's this nonsense about you and that market girl? She said, her voice dripping with disdain. You're the king of Lagos. You don't slum it. His eyes narrowed, cold as the steel in his empire's skyscrapers. She's more real than you'll ever be, Temi, he shot back, his words slicing through the hum of the crowd. Temi's laugh was brittle, but her eyes promised war. You'll regret this, she hissed, turning on her Louboutin heels. The city's elite closed ranks. At Ikoyi Club, over glasses of single malt, old friends and business allies pressed Adebayo to reconsider. A man of your stature needs a queen, not a beggar, said Chief Okonkwo, a shipping magnate whose daughter had once eyed Adebayo's ring. She'll drag you down. Adebayo sipped his drink, his face a mask. My empire, my choice, he said, ending the conversation. But the warnings gnawed at him, not for fear of his status, but for Amara, who'd faced the brunt of their scorn. Lagos was a city that devoured those who didn't fit its hierarchy, and Amara, with her patched clothes and roadside stall, was an affront to its order. In Oshodi, Amara felt the ripple effects. Market women, once her allies, whispered behind her back, their envy stoked by tabloid headlines screaming, "Billionaire's beggar bride?" Customers haggled harder, some sneering that she thought herself too big now. Mama Ngozi, a fish seller who'd known Amara since her Ajagunal days, pulled her aside. Be careful, child. These rich people, they break what they can't control. Amara's jaw tightened, her eyes fierce. Let them try, she said, fanning her corn fire. Shed survived worse than gossip. Hunger, loss, the streets. But at night, alone under her tattered umbrella, she wondered if Adebayo's world would crush her dreams before they could bloom. Yet, each evening when Adebayo returned to her stall, rain or shine, her doubts softened. Head sit, loosening his tie, and eat her corn, his laughter rarer but real. They don't scare me, he told her one night, sensing her unease. Do they scare you? Amara met his gaze, her chin lifted. I've faced worse than their talk. In that moment, their defiance aligned. a quiet pact against a city that demanded they stay apart. The divide between their worlds loomed, but Adebayo saw in Amara what Lagos elite could not. A strength that matched his own, forged in fire, unyielding to the weight of wealth or scorn. The Oshodi market was a restless beast, its pulse slowing as night draped over Lagos. The rain had ceased, leaving a humid stillness broken only by the distant hum of generators and the occasional shout of a late hawker. Amara's stall glowed under a flickering streetlight, her small fire casting shadows that danced across her face. The air was thick with the scent of roasted maize and damp earth, a familiar comfort in her hard-won corner of the world. At 22, Amara had carved a life from nothing, her hands scarred from years of survival in a Jagunal's slums. Orphaned at 10, Shed learned to trust sparingly her dreams of a school for street children, guarded like embers in a storm. Yet, Adebayo Ogunlai's daily visits had begun to stir something unfamiliar. Hope. That evening, the market was quieter than usual, the last traders packing up under a moonlit sky. Amara was stacking her remaining cobs when a shadow fell across her stall. She looked up, expecting a customer, but it was Adebayo. Alone, no Rolls-Royce, no driver, just him in a tailored shirt, sleeves rolled up, his usual armor of aloofness absent. "Oga, big man, you lost?" she teased, but her eyes caught the tension in his jaw. He didn't sit, didn't take the corn she offered. Instead, he stood, hands in his pockets, staring at the fire as if it held answers. "Tell me why you stay here," he said, his voice low, almost a plea. "You could leave this place, be more." Amara's hands stilled, her heart quickening. Shed faced questions like this before, patronizing pity from passersby, but his tone was different, raw, searching. She set down her tongs, wiping soot from her fingers. "This is my home," she said, her voice steady. "I stay because these kids." She nodded toward a group of street boys kicking a deflated ball nearby. "They're me years ago. I want them to have what I didn't." Her eyes met his, fierce and unguarded. "What about you, Oga? Why do you keep coming back to my fire?" Adebayo's gaze dropped, a rare crack in the Iron King's facade. He stepped closer, the heat of the fire warming the space between them. "Because you see me," he said, the words heavy, as if pulled from a locked vault. "Not my money, not my name, just me." His voice faltered, and for a moment he was no billionaire, no tycoon, just a man carrying the weight of a life built on distrust. He spoke of Suralire, of losing his father to a hit and run, of scraping by in a city that chewed up the weak. "I fought for everything," he said, "but it's empty up there." He gestured vaguely toward the skyline, where his penthouse loomed. Amara listened, her heart aching with recognition. She'd never seen a man like him unravel, and it stirred her own truths. "I lost everything too," she said softly, her fingers tracing a scar on her wrist from the fire that took her parents. "But I learned to keep going. You don't survive a Jagunal by looking back." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the world shrank to the glow of her fire, the hum of Oshodi fading. Her hand brushed his, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through them both. She laughed, breaking the tension, her voice warm. "You're not as tough as you think, Oga." Adebayo smiled, a rare, genuine curve of his lips. As he walked away, the night air cool against his skin, he felt lighter, as if Head left a piece of his armor behind. Amara watched him go, her heart pounding, a quiet hope blooming despite her fears. Something had shifted, a spark now aflame, binding two souls who'd fought their way through different worlds. Lagos shimmered under a late afternoon sun, its skyline a jagged dance of glass and ambition. But in Oshodi's heart, the world was raw and unpolished. Amara's stall stood defiant amidst the market's chaos. Motorbikes weaving through crowds, traders shouting prices for yams and second-hand shoes, the air thick with the tang of roasted maize and diesel. At 22, Amara had built a small empire here, her fire a beacon for street children who called her Auntie Iron. But her dreams stretched beyond the roadside. A school for those kids, a legacy born from her own scars. Adebayo's daily visits had become her anchor, his presence a quiet challenge to the life she'd always known. Yet, the whispers of Lagos elite, calling her a hustler, a nobody, gnawed at her resolve. Adebayo, meanwhile, was a man unmoored. The billionaire who'd conquered oil fields and boardrooms found himself haunted by a woman who needed nothing from him. One sweltering evening, he invited Amara to his Victoria Island penthouse, not to flaunt his wealth, but to share his truth. She stepped into his world hesitantly, her worn sandals stark against the marble floors. The penthouse was a cathedral of luxury, chandeliers dripping crystal, walls lined with African art, the Atlantic glittering beyond vast windows. Amara's eyes swept the space, unimpressed. "Too much space for one person," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. Adebayo laughed, a sound that echoed in the hollow expanse. "It's felt empty until now," he admitted, surprising himself. They sat on his balcony, the city's pulse below them, sharing a meal of jollof rice she'd insisted on cooking herself. Amara spoke of a Jagunal's grit, of nights sleeping under bridges, of dreams she'd whispered to the stars. Adebayo listened, his usual defenses crumbling. He told her of his own battles, betrayals by partners, a mother's death from untreated illness, the loneliness of his throne. Their stories wove together, two survivors shaped by different fires. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting Lagos in gold, Adebayo made a decision that defied his calculated life. Weeks later, under Ashadi's flickering streetlights, he returned to her stall, a small velvet box in his pocket. The market was winding down, traders packing up, the air heavy with the scent of rain. Amara was sweeping ash from her fire when he knelt before her, the sight drawing gasps from nearby hawkers. Inside the box was a silver band, etched with a delicate maize motif. No diamonds, just a nod to her roots. "Marry me," he said, his voice steady but his eyes raw with hope. Amara froze, her heart caught between joy and fear. "I'm not your kind, Adebayo," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm not made for your world." "You're my world," he replied, his words fierce. "I don't want their kind, polished, empty. I want you." The market stilled, eyes on the billionaire kneeling in the mud. Amara's mind raced. Lagos would tear them apart, her past a stain on his empire. But his gaze, unwavering, mirrored her own resilience. She thought of the children she wanted to save, the life they could build. With a breath, she nodded, taking the ring. "Yes," she whispered, her voice a leap into the unknown. As he slipped the band onto her finger, the market erupted in cheers. But for Amara and Adebayo, the world was just the two of them, bound by a promise stronger than Lagos scorn. Lagos was a city that thrived on spectacle, and Adebayo Ogunlai's engagement to Amara, a roadside corn seller, was its juiciest scandal. The news broke like a monsoon, flooding tabloids with headlines screaming, "Billionaire's beggar bride," and "Iron King falls for slum girl." Social media buzzed with venom, influencers dissecting Amara's patched clothes and lack of pedigree. In the marble corridors of Victoria Island's elite, where power was currency and status a religion, Adebayo's choice was an unforgivable betrayal. The city's high society, from Ikoyi's manicured mansions to Lekki's yacht clubs, closed ranks, their whispers sharpening into a storm of disdain. At a private dinner in a Banana Island mansion, hosted by a telecoms tycoon, Adebayo faced the elite's wrath. Crystal chandeliers cast light on polished faces, but the air was thick with tension. Temi Aluko, the oil heiress scorned by Adebayo's rejection, led the assault. "You're throwing away your legacy for a hustler," she said, her voice laced with honeyed malice, her diamond earrings glinting. "She's playing you, Adebayo." The room nodded, murmurs of agreement rippling through the guests. Senators, CEOs, and socialites who'd once courted his favor. Chaik, his CFO and oldest friend, leaned in, his voice low. "This could tank your empire, Ade. Investors are spooked. The board's talking." Adebayo's jaw tightened, his eyes cold as steel. "Let it," he said, standing. "My life, my rules." He walked out, leaving a stunned silence. In Ashadi, Amara bore the storm's brunt. The market, once her sanctuary, turned hostile. Traders who'd called her Auntie Iron now whispered behind her back, their envy stoked by tabloid lies painting her as a gold digger. Customers haggled viciously, some spitting insults. "You think you're big now, eh?" Mama Ngozi, the fish seller who'd been like a mother, pulled her aside under the shade of a mango tree. "These people, they hate what they don't understand," she said, her eyes heavy. "Rich or poor, they'll break you if you let them." Amara nodded, her chin high, but the words stung. She'd survived a Jagunal's hunger and predators, but this betrayal, from her own, cut deeper. At night, alone at her stall, she clutched Adebayo's silver ring, its maze motif a reminder of her roots, and wondered if love was worth this war. The pressure mounted. Adebayo's board called an emergency meeting, citing reputational risk. A major investor threatened to pull out, spooked by the scandal's impact on Ogunlai Enterprises stock. Paparazzi stalked Amara, snapping photos as she roasted corn, their lenses turning her life into a circus. Yet, each evening, Adebayo returned to her stall, his presence a shield against the chaos. One night, as rain pattered on her umbrella, he sat beside her, loosening his tie. "They want to break us," he said, his voice steady. "Are you still in?" Amara looked at him, her eyes fierce despite the ache in her chest. "I've fought worse storms, Oga," she said, her hand finding his. "But we fight together now." Their hands clasped, a quiet vow amidst the markets in Lagos could rage. Its elite could scheme, but Adebayo and Amara stood firm, their love a rebellion against a city that demanded conformity. The storm was far from over, but together, they were unbreakable, two survivors ready to face whatever came next. Lagos thrived on grandeur, its elite weddings sprawling affairs of excess, ballrooms dripping with Swarovski crystals, guest lists boasting governors and pop stars, and hashtags trending across Africa. But Adebayo, Ogunlai, and Amara chose a different path. On a sun-dappled morning, in a quiet garden overlooking the Atlantic's restless waves and ape, they stood to exchange vows, defying a city that had tried to tear them apart. The garden was modest, fragrant with frangipani and hibiscus, its simplicity a rebellion against the opulence of Victoria Island. No paparazzi, no drones, no society columnists. Only a small circle of loyal souls who understood the weight of their love. Amara was radiant, her white dress a flowing Ankara masterpiece, hand-stitched by a tailor from her Jagunal days. Maize flowers, vibrant yellow, adorned her braided hair, a nod to the roadside stall where their story began. She carried no bouquet, only her dreams, etched in the silver ring on her finger. Adebayo, in a tailored cream agbada, his broad shoulders softened by a rare smile, looked at her as if she were the only truth in a world of illusions. The guests, fewer than 20, included Mama Ngozi, the fish seller who'd been Amara's anchor, a few market women clutching colorful geli head wraps, and Chaik, Adebayo's CFO, who'd grudgingly accepted his friend's choice. A pastor from a Jagunal, his voice weathered by years of street sermons, officiated under a canopy of palm leaves. The ceremony was simple but profound. Adebayo spoke first, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "Amara, you saw me when I was invisible," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "I promised to build your dreams. A school, a future, for you and every child like you." The words carried the weight of his empire, but they were for her alone. Amara's vows were quieter, her voice trembling with the vulnerability she rarely showed. "Adebayo, you gave me a home, not just a house. I promised to keep you grounded, to remind you who you are." As they exchanged rings, the maize motif glinting in the sunlight, a breeze stirred the garden, as if Lagos itself exhaled in surrender. The market women ululated, their voices rising in a joyous Yoruba chant, while Chaik clapped, his skepticism replaced by awe. A small feast followed, pounded yam, egusi stew, and Amara's roasted corn, served on banana leaves. Laughter filled the air as Mama Ngozi teased Adebayo, calling him Oga Corn for the first time, drawing a deep laugh from the billionaire. The city's elite, excluded from the event, raged in their glass towers, their absence a victory for the couple. Tabloids would later call it the scandal wedding. But in that garden, it was sacred, a union of two survivors who'd chosen love over status. As the sun set, painting the ocean gold, Adebayo and Amara danced to a single talking drum, their steps unpracticed but sure. She leaned into him, her head against his chest, and whispered, "We did it." He kissed her forehead, his voice a vow. This is just the beginning. Lagos could keep its scorn. They had built something stronger, a love rooted in the dirt of Oshodi and the dreams of a better world. Lagos pulsed with unrelenting energy, its skyline a testament to ambition. But in a quiet corner of Lekki, Adebayo and Amara built a sanctuary that defied the city's clamor. At Amara's insistence, their home was no ostentatious mansion but a warm, sprawling house with whitewashed walls and a tiled roof, surrounded by a garden where maize stalks swayed alongside hibiscus and mango trees. The plot, a gift from Adebayo, was her vision. A place rooted in simplicity, a rebellion against the glass towers of his billionaire world. Inside, the rooms echoed with laughter, the scent of Amara's jollof rice, and the chaos of a growing family, a stark contrast to the sterile solitude of Adebayo's former penthouse life. Amara refused to be a trophy wife, her spirit as fierce as it had been by her Oshodi stall. Within months of their wedding, she launched the Amara Foundation, a mission to educate street children, born from her own years of surviving a Jagunal's slums. She worked tirelessly, converting an old warehouse into a school, its walls painted with bright murals of books and stars. She hired teachers from the community, trained them herself, and spent evenings tutoring children who reminded her of her younger self. Hungry, defiant, dreaming, Adebayo, once a solitary tycoon, found himself drawn into her world, hosting her team in their living room, marveling at her ability to command with quiet strength. "You're building an empire," he told her one night, watching her pore over budgets. She smirked, her eyes gleaming. "Not like yours, Oga. Mine last." Their first child, Ife, arrived a year after the wedding, a girl with Amara's fierce eyes and Adebayo's sharp curiosity. 2 years later, twins Kemi and Tolu burst into their lives, followed by boys Chidi and Emeka, each a blend of their parents' fire and intellect. The house was a whirlwind of spilled juice, crayons on walls, and bedtime stories told in Yoruba and English. Adebayo, the man once feared as the Iron King, learned to braid Ife's hair, his large hands clumsy but patient, while Amara taught the children to plant maize, tying them to her roots. At night, they'd collapse on their veranda, the children asleep, and share quiet moments under Lagos' starry sky, their hands entwined, their love a steady anchor. Yet the city's judgment lingered. At corporate events, Adebayo overheard snide remarks about his market wife, and Amara faced skeptical glances from donors who doubted her pedigree. The pressure tested them, but Amara's resolve was unshakable. "They don't know us," she'd say, her chin lifted, as she secured grants for her foundation. Adebayo, inspired by her, began redirecting his empire's profits to social causes, funding scholarships and clean water projects. Their children grew grounded, unaware of their father's billions, raised to value effort over entitlement. Ife, at 5, declared she'd be a doctor. Kemi, a lawyer. Tolu, an artist. Chidi, a coder. Emeka, a footballer. Amara laughed, her heart full, while Adebayo watched, his once cold heart softened by the family they'd built. Their home became a haven, not just for them but for Oshodi's children, who visited for meals and lessons. Amara never forgot her roots, driving to the market to share corn with old friends, her children in tow. Adebayo, once a stranger to such simplicity, joined her, his laughter now a common sound. Their new life, forged in love and defiance, was a testament to what they'd overcome. A city's scorn, their own fears, and the weight of their pasts, proving that empires could be built not just in boardrooms, but in hearts. Lagos never slept, its pulse a relentless mix of ambition and betrayal, and even in the sanctuary of their Lekki home, Adebayo and Amara could not escape its claws. 3 years into their marriage, with the Amara Foundation thriving and their children filling their days with laughter. A shadow crept into their lives. Temi Aluko, the oil heiress whose scorn had festered since Adebayo's rejection, struck with calculated venom. At a high society gala in Ikoyi, she planted a rumor, her voice dripping with faux concern as she whispered to a tabloid reporter. Amara's foundation is a front. She's using Adebayo's money, meeting men behind his back. The lie spread like wildfire, fanned by Lagos gossip-hungry elite and splashed across tabloid covers. Billionaire's wife in secret affair? The rumor reached Adebayo at his Victoria Island office, where he was closing a deal for a new tech hub. His phone buzzed with notifications, headlines, texts from associates, even a taunting message from Temi. Told you shed ruin you. Adebayo, the Iron King who'd built his empire on distrust, felt an old wound reopen. In Surulere, betrayal had been his teacher. Partners had cheated him, friends had sold him out. Amara had been his exception, but the whispers gnawed at him, sowing doubt in the heart had only just learned to open. He drove home, the Lagos skyline blurring past, his mind a storm of questions. Amara was in their garden, teaching Ife to plant maize, her laughter fading when she saw Adebayo's face. The children were ushered inside by a nanny, leaving the couple under the mango tree's shade. "Is it true?" he demanded, his voice low but sharp, holding up his phone with a damning headline. Amara's eyes widened, not with guilt but with hurt. "You believe this?" she asked, her voice steady despite the ache. She stepped closer, her Ankara dress streaked with soil, and handed him a folder, her foundation's records, every naira accounted for, every donor listed. "Look for yourself, Adebayo," she said, her tone a mix of defiance and pain. "I've got nothing to hide." He pored over the documents that night, the numbers stark and honest, revealing only her tireless work for Ashadi's children. Shame washed over him heavier than Lagos rains. He found her on their veranda, staring at the stars, her arms crossed. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking, a rare crack in the billionaire's armor. "I let them get to me." Amara turned, her eyes fierce but glistening. "I survived a jugunal, Adebayo. I don't need your world's approval. But doubt me again and I walk." Her words were a blade, cutting through his pride, but her hand reached for his, a lifeline. He took it, vowing silently to never falter again. The next day, Adebayo struck back. He called a press conference, his boardroom filled with reporters, and declared the rumors false, praising Amara's foundation and daring anyone to challenge her integrity. Temi's influence waned, her lies exposed, but the victory was Amara's. She returned to her school, head high, teaching children under murals of hope. At home, Adebayo knelt before her, not with a ring but with a promise. "We're stronger than their lies." Amara nodded, her heart mending. Their bond forged anew in the fire of trust reclaimed. Lagos could scheme, but their love, tested and true, stood unshaken. Lagos was a city of relentless reinvention, its skyline a testament to ambition, but Adebayo and Amara Ogunlai had carved a legacy that transcended its glass towers. 15 years into their marriage, their Lekki home remained a haven of warmth, its maze-filled garden a living monument to Amara's roots. The Amara Foundation had grown from a single warehouse school in Ashadi to a network of 10 across Nigeria, educating thousands of street children. Its bright murals, books, stars, and soaring kites dotted slums and cities alike, a beacon for those society overlooked. Amara, now 37, ran it with the same fierce resolve shed once brought to her corn stall. Her Ankara dresses and maize-flower hairpins a quiet defiance of Lagos elite expectations. Adebayo, at 57, had softened but not weakened. The Iron King's empire now balanced profit with purpose, inspired by Amara's vision. Ogunlai Enterprises funded clean water projects in rural Oyo, tech training for youths in Kano, and scholarships that sent slum children to universities abroad. At board meetings, where once head ruled with cold precision, he now spoke of impact, his voice carrying a warmth that startled old allies like Chaik. "She's changed you," Chaik said one evening over palm wine, a grin breaking his stern face. Adebayo chuckled, raising his glass. She's changed us all. Their children were their greatest pride, each a blend of Amara's fire and Adebayo's intellect. Ife, 14, was a budding doctor, dissecting biology textbooks with a surgeon's focus. Kemi, 12, argued with the sharpness of a future lawyer, while her twin, Tolu, painted canvases that captured Lagos chaos in vibrant strokes. Chidi, 10, coded apps on his laptop, dreaming of tech empires, and Emeka, 8, chased football dreams on dusty pitches, his energy boundless. Raised in a home where wealth was a tool, not a crown, they joined Amara at her schools, tutoring younger kids, their privilege tempered by her lessons in humility. You're from Oshodi, like me, she'd tell them, planting maize seeds in their garden, tying them to her past. The city's elite, once their fiercest critics, now clamored for invitations to Amara's fundraisers, their scorn replaced by grudging respect. Temi Aluko's rumors had faded, her influence a distant memory, but Amara never forgot the market's betrayal. She returned to Oshodi weekly, driving a modest Toyota, her children in tow, sharing meals of roasted corn and boli with traders who'd once turned away. Mama Ngozi, now frail but proud, called her our queen, and Amara laughed, handing her a plate. Just Auntie Iron, she'd say, her eyes bright. Adebayo joined her, his tailored suits swapped for simple kaftans, his laughter mingling with hawkers' banter, a far cry from the man who'd once lived behind glass. Their legacy was more than schools or wealth. It was a family rooted in love, a city reshaped by their defiance. At night, Adebayo and Amara sat on their veranda, the children's voices fading inside, Lagos lights glittering below. We proved them wrong, he said, his hand over hers, the maize motif ring glinting. Amara smiled, her voice steady. We proved us right. Their love, born on a roadside, had built a world where dreams, not status, reigned supreme, a legacy that would outlast them both. Lagos had changed in 2 decades, its skyline sharper, its streets louder, but Oshodi's heart still beat with the same raw energy. Hawkers shouting, buses blaring, the air thick with roasted maize and hope. On their 20th anniversary, Adebayo and Amara returned to the corner where their love began. A humble spot now framed by a modernized market with concrete stalls and solar-powered lights. Amara's old umbrella was long gone, but a new one, vibrant blue, stood in its place, tended by a young girl selling corn, a mirror of Amara's past. Adebayo, now 62, his hair streaked with silver, wore a simple agbada, his billionaire's edge softened by years of love. Amara, 42, radiant in an Ankara dress, her maize-flower hairpin a nod to their story, stood beside him, her eyes still fierce, her laugh unchanged. Their 5 children trailed behind, a lively brood now in their teens and early 20s. Ife, 19, was in medical school, her determination set on healing. Kemi, 17, debated law with a lawyer's fire. Tolu, her twin, sketched Oshodi's chaos, an artist's soul. Chidi, 15, coded apps in his sleep. Emeka, 13, kicked a football with dreams of the Super Eagles. They laughed and bickered, their voices blending with the market's din, unaware of the weight their parents carried. The battles fought to forge this family against a city's scorn. Adebayo watched them, his heart full, while Amara handed the young corn seller a bundle of naira, whispering, "Keep dreaming, child." They sat under the umbrella, sharing roasted corn as the sun dipped, painting Lagos in hues of gold and crimson. The market buzzed around them, traders nodding in recognition. Auntie Iron and Oga Corn, legends now. Adebayo took Amara's hand, his fingers tracing the silver ring head given her 20 years ago, its maize motif worn but enduring. "You changed me," he said, his voice thick, the Iron King long replaced by a man who'd learned to love. Amara smiled, her eyes glinting with the same defiance that had caught him all those years ago. "No, you found yourself," she said softly. "I just showed you the way." Their journey flashed before them. Oshodi's rain-soaked nights, the elite's venom, the foundation that grew from one school to a network across Nigeria, educating thousands. Adebayo's empire had shifted, too, its profits fueling clean water, tech hubs, and scholarships, a legacy inspired by Amara's heart. The city that once scorned them now sought their favor, but they remained rooted, returning to Oshodi to share meals with traders, their children learning the value of grit over gold. The tabloids had quieted, Temi Aluko's name faded, but Amara's murals, bright stars and books, dotted Lagos, a testament to her dreams. As their children played, Emeka scoring a goal against Chidi in the dust, Adebayo pulled Amara close. "We built more than I ever dreamed," he said, his eyes on their family, the market, the city they'd reshaped. Amara leaned into him, her voice a vow. "And we're not done." Under Oshodi's stars, where a roadside spark had ignited their love, they renewed their promise. Not just to each other, but to a world they'd made better, one dream, one child, one cob of corn at a time. Lagos in 2025 was a city of dizzying contrasts, its skyline a jagged forest of glass towers piercing the clouds, while its slums pulsed with the raw tenacity of survival. Adebayo Ogunlaye, now 62, stood on the veranda of his Lekki home, his silver-streaked hair catching the first light of dawn. His eyes, once sharp with the ruthlessness that built Ogunlaye Enterprises, softened as he watched Amara, 42, tending her maize garden below. Her hands, scarred from years at her Oshodi stall, moved with quiet purpose, planting seeds that tied their sprawling home to her roots. The Amara Foundation, now a network of 15 schools educating 8,000 street children across Nigeria, was their shared triumph, its vibrant murals, books, stars, and soaring kites, dotting slums from Oshodi to Makoko, a testament to her dream born on a rainy roadside. Their children were their living legacy, each a spark of their parents' fire. Ife, 19, was in medical school, her fierce eyes set on healing Nigeria's poor. Kemi and Tolu, 17-year-old twins, chased divergent paths. Kemi's sharp mind honed for law, Tolu's hands painting Lagos grit in bold strokes. Chidi, 15, coded apps in his bedroom, his tech genius already drawing Yaba's attention, while Emeka, 13, kicked a football with dreams of the Super Eagles. The Lekki house, alive with their laughter and bickering, was a far cry from Adebayo's sterile Victoria Island penthouse of decades past. Yet, as he watched Amara laugh with Emeka over a fallen maize stalk, Adebayo felt a quiet unease. Lagos was changing, its tech boom fueling wealth but widening inequality, and their foundation faced new challenges to scale its impact. Amara, her Ankara head wrap bright against the morning haze, joined him on the veranda, her maize motif ring glinting. "We're not done," she said, her voice fierce, reading his thoughts. She envisioned a tech-driven future for the foundation virtual classrooms, coding boot camps, AI tools to reach millions of children beyond Nigeria's borders. "These kids deserve more than books," she said, her eyes on the skyline. "They need skills to compete in this new Lagos." Adebayo nodded, his empire's resources ready to fuel her ambition. But he saw the hurdles: corrupt politicians eyeing their land, elite skepticism, and a digital divide that left slums behind. His heart, softened by 20 years with Amara, stirred with pride, but his mind, still sharp, calculated the risks. The city's pulse was relentless, tech startups in Yaba, crypto traders in Lekki, yet Oshodi's traders still hawked under tattered umbrellas. The foundation's growth had drawn global notice, but Nigeria's realities, corruption, power struggles loomed. At breakfast, Ife challenged Amara. "How do you reach every child?" Amara's answer was simple: one school at a time. Adebayo, watching his family, felt their legacy's weight. Their love, born in Oshodi's mud, had reshaped a city, but this new dawn demanded more. A fusion of Amara's grit and his strategy to bridge Lagos divides, ensuring their flame burned brighter than ever. Lagos in 2026 was a digital crucible, its Yaba district, dubbed Yabakan Valley, buzzing with startups, while Oshodi's markets clung to analog survival. Amara Ogunlaye, now 43, stood at the forefront of this divide, her Amara Foundation poised to bridge it. Her flagship school in Oshodi, once a humble warehouse, had transformed into a tech hub, its concrete walls lined with solar-powered laptops and whiteboards displaying code. The pilot project, launched with Adebayo's funding, aimed to revolutionize education for slum children, virtual classrooms to reach remote villages, coding boot camps to rival Lagos Tech Elite. Amara's vision was bold. These kids will build Nigeria's future, not just survive it, she declared, her maze motif ring glinting as she added just a student screen. Chidi, their 15-year-old son, was her secret weapon. A coding prodigy, had designed an AI literacy app that taught reading through interactive games, now used by 200 students in Oshodi. His lanky frame hunched over laptops, teaching peers to code apps for market traders, tools to track sales or connect to buyers. It's like giving them wings, he told Amara, his eyes bright with her fire. But resistance simmered. Teachers, fearing tech would replace them, grumbled. One veteran, Mama Bose, quit, saying, "Machines can't teach heart." Amara countered with training, blending tech with human connection, her juggernaut grit winning back trust. "Tech's a tool, not our soul," she told her staff, her voice steady. Lagos Elite were less kind. At a Yaba Tech Summit, hosted in a sleek co-working space with glass walls and drone-delivered coffee, a rival CEO, Tund Balagan, mocked Amara's credentials. "Stick to corn, madam," he sneered, his Oxford accent cutting through the crowd. Amara, in a vibrant Ankara dress, stood tall, her eyes blazing. "I built schools from nothing. What's your excuse for leaving kids behind?" The room fell silent, Adebayo's proud grin visible from the back. Her data spoke louder, 200 students coding apps, 50% female, in a city where girls rarely touch tech. By mid-2026, the pilot's success drew a $1 million grant from a Silicon Valley fund, scaling the foundation to 18 schools. Challenges persisted. Local politicians, eyeing the foundation's land, demanded bribes to approve tech permits. Amara negotiated fiercely, her street-honed instincts outmatching their greed. A rival tech firm sabotaged equipment, delaying classes, but Chidi and his student coders repaired it, their resilience mirroring Amara's. Adebayo, 63, secured partnerships with Yaba's Tech Hub, funding solar panels and servers. By 2027, the Oshodi Schools app, built by a student named Tund, streamlined market trades, earning national acclaim. Amara's speech at a demo, under Oshodi's stars, silenced skeptics. "Our kids aren't just coders, they're creators." The foundation's tech frontier, born from her Roadside dream, was rewriting Nigeria's story, one line of code at a time.